What's up guys, Paladin here, and today I'm coming at you with an exciting video. That's right, we are getting buffs, and not just buffs, but we are getting Templar Paladin buffs. So my favorite spec, pretty much throughout all of beta and even in the beginning of the War Within release was Templar. I leveled up as Templar, played Templar max level. We even had that fun like 4 days of getting Templar Hammer of Light spam out with the hero specialization. However, after they did the bug fixes to both Penitence, Burning Crusade, and Dawnlight itself, when Dawnlight was not functioning with Mastery and Crit and whatnot, Herald was pretty weak. But after they did those changes and bug fixes, all of a sudden Herald of the Sun took off in both PvE and PvP as the far and away number one hero specialization. Of course, you can play, whatever talents that you want in PvP to a certain degree. And I always had fun in Battleground and Battleground Blitz with Templar. However, after experimenting with quite a few classes at max level now, played Ret, Arms, Fury, Elemental, and Enhancement Shaman, I started to realize that Templar really was offering absolutely nothing in terms of what its identity should be. So Herald is the strong AoE, cleave, consistent damage build, and then Templar basically was kind of the same thing but weaker, because Shake the Heavens was just like Empyrean Hammer just turned out to be a worse version of a Dawnlight damage over time effect, or not a worse version but a weaker version. And the identity of Templar throughout beta was like really, really big burst. However, Light's Hammer, or Hammer of Light, I'm sorry, it hits about as hard as a Fury Warrior Execute. It really doesn't do that much damage, especially for its cooldown and the number of stacks that you had to get with Light's Deliverance. So it took 60 Empyrean Hammers falling in order to trigger a free Light's Deliverance. Oftentimes when I tested this out in solo shuffle or even in a 2v2 arena, I would not even get one single proc of Light's Deliverance between rounds or in a short 2v2 or even in a regular 3v3. It just took a really long time to build a stack. However, that's changing, and we're going to take a look right now at these patch notes. If I can pull them up here, let me go to display capture. There we go. All right, so we have the patch notes for this upcoming Tuesday reset. I'm not going to go over all the classes here. We'll talk a little bit about the PvP changes at the end, but this right here, these are the changes that we're going to talk about. Actually, let's look at the Wowhide version. It's a little bit cleaner than MMO Champion. Of course, no bias, right? All right, so we have Templar Shake the Heavens lasts for 10 seconds, was originally 8 seconds. That is fantastic for us. That means if we get CC during our Shake the Heavens, we have a little bit extra time to extend the duration, which means we're going to get Light's Deliverance, Empyrean Light's Hammers off more frequently. And obviously, it's just in general, it's going to drop more Empyrean Hammers while it lasts 10 seconds. Sanctification duration increased to 12 seconds here. So Sanctification is the buff that allows you to increase the damage of your Empyrean Hammer by 10% by casting a Judgment. So that means it's going to last a little bit longer, which is pretty nice. I'm assuming that's the kind of match the Shake the Heavens duration increase. Final Reckoning now increases the damage of Hammer of Light by 30%. Was 15%. So I don't know how this is going to work in PvP because Final Reckoning is nerfed in half in PvP. But to me, maybe we're going to go from like... It's weird. I did the math on the way that Final Reckoning buffs Hammer of Light. And in theory, you think it would buff it by 7.5% because it's nerfed in PvP by half, and then it's an AoE spell, so it's nerfed in half again. But actually, in all my tests, it was doing somewhere between like 10 and 15% increases on Hammer of Lights. So now it might be doing around 20%. I'm not sure what the behind the scenes math is here, or maybe we'll just get lucky and this will be an entire just a 15% damage increase on Hammer of Light. Now, regarding Hammer of Light in general, we're getting a 25% main target buff and a secondary 75% buff. That is huge. But also it's needed, right? Because if you proc a Blessing of Anchi from Herald of the Sun versus a Hammer of Light, it's doing about the same damage right now. Even in PvP, when Blessing of Anchi is nerfed, you're throwing like a 700k Blessing of Anchi, Hammer of Wrath. It's doing the same amount as a semi ramped up Hammer of Light. So this is a pretty welcome buff right here. Also, I played Colossus Arms Warrior, and it definitely gave me some perspective on what a decent chunky burst ability from the hero talent tree is supposed to be like. Next up, we have Light's Deliverance now triggers at 50 stacks, was 60. So this, in combination with a longer Shake the Heavens, seems like we actually might be able to take advantage of the capstone talent, Light's Deliverance. That's the talent that resets your Hammer of Lights. Pretty cool. Undisputed Ruling grants 15% haste for 8 seconds, was 12% haste for 6 seconds. Another very welcome change, especially with the loss of, with the loss of Seal of Alacrity incoming. I'm pretty happy that we are getting that buff. So, pretty cool. And then Wrathful Descent now deals 125% of Empyrean Hammer damage to nearby enemies, was 100%. So what this spell is, if you guys aren't aware, is when your Empyrean Hammer crits, it hits all the targets around the target that it hit for full value right now. So now it's going to be like a little bit more, just 25% more, I suppose. And then it also decreases the damage that all your surrounding enemies deal to you by 5%. That's a pretty good change. Honestly, it could make crit very valuable for Templar Paladin, which would be pretty cool. I'd love to have a build where I ran something like 15% crit and then some mastery and whatnot. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then lastly, another quality of life change right here. We have Empyrean Hammer now benefits from Penitence and Burn to Ash. Pretty welcome changes here, to be quite honest. And that's primarily because the build for Templar was very strange, where we have a lot of our capstone talents and our talents that are kind of towards the lower part of the tree, focusing around dot damage, and you just would never take them as Templar because you don't have dots as Templar unless you include Expurgation, which really doesn't do anything. So it's a pretty cool change to have here. So now we have more talents open to Ret here. And then by playing Templar, we will be passively a little bit more tanky with Sacrosanct Crusade and Wrathful Descent. However, our individual self-healing will be a little bit lower with the loss of Eternal Flame if you don't play Herald of the Sun. All in all, I think it's quite possible that Herald of the Sun is it's definitely going to be closer to on par with Herald of the Sun. Herald will probably have comps where it's still a little bit better. Into maybe melee cleaves and whatnot. Whereas Templar, if you're really trying to kill a squishy target, Templar could end up seeing some play. And I mean, I'm definitely going to play Templar. I'm already still playing Templar. It just does not feel as strong as Herald of the Sun. So these are pretty awesome changes. After that, not too many relevant changes to the Paladin class tree. None at all, actually. It's just talent changes for now. There's a lot of balancing going on behind the scenes. A couple things that might impact the state of Ret is we are seeing Unholy DK nerfs, which is pretty nice. Unholy DKs are running rampant right now. Same with Feral Druids, but very minor Feral Druid nerfs. I don't know how I feel about the Unholy DK nerfs here. I'm not sure if these were particularly the spells to nerf. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I think I'm really more annoyed with the fact that there's like you RNG proc AMS all the time, and then you can't apply your Herald of the Sun dots to Unholy. But if they want to nerf their damage, then I guess that's fine. We have some Resto Druid mana buffs. So, well, I guess they're reducing the amount of mana regeneration nerfs that they had to 40% from 50%. So this is a buff to Resto Druid. Resto Druid does historically pretty well with Ret as a healer. Survival of the Fittest was nerfed on Hunters. And then survival tactics also nerfed on hunters. So hunters are becoming a little bit more squishy. They are pretty tanky right now. Oh, wow, they're nerfing Don't Look Back as well. Wow, they're actually significantly nerfing hunter survivability. So we'll see how hunters are next week. They're nerfing Frigid Winds a little bit. That's pretty welcome change. Arcane buffs, Fire Mage buffs. Thank God there's no Frost Mage buffs. Some weird changes to Elemental with their Lightning talents. I still don't think Lightning's ever going to catch on with Ellie. And then some Affliction Lock nerfs. So even if we weren't getting these buffs next week for Templar, I feel like the State of Ret would go up a little bit because the outliers are getting tuned down. Nice little Demonology buff right there. Demonology plays pretty well with the Ret historically. Although it looks like the effectiveness of Demon Skin's armor bonus is no longer reduced by 50% in PvP. So they're upping Warlock's survivability a little bit. And to be fair, right now, Warlocks you can kill Warlocks this expansion, which is nice, but they're also doing infinite damage. So you kind of have to kill them no matter what. And then right here, we have D-Stance is unnerfed in PvP combat. That is phenomenal to see. I've been playing a lot of Warrior lately, and it's always a welcome change to have a little bit more stance dancing power back in your life as a Warrior. Stance dancing historically was one of my favorite things to do back in the day. And then we have an Arms Execute buff and an Arms Mortal Strike buff, and then Master and Commander now reduces the cooldown of Rallying Cry by 2 minutes, was 90 seconds, and increases its effect by an additional 10%. So maybe Master and Commander will be played by Warriors a little bit, and then random Execute damage increase for Prot Warrior. I don't know. I guess every now and then they like to buff Prot damage. But yeah, I mean, Arms Warrior has historically been a fantastic partner for Ret Paladin as well as Fury Warrior. And in buffing D-Stance, they buff both Arms and Fury a little bit. And then Mortal Strike and Execute damage going up is always a welcome change as a Retribution Paladin player here. All right, so all in all, I think we have some pretty solid changes and some fun talent combinations to test out next week. I'm looking forward to the Templar buffs, and I hope there's no bugs regarding the talents. I will test them out, and I'll see you guys next week when we test them out. All right, peace.